Hello, everybody, and welcome to the special audio edition of the Cartoon Flashback series. Now, I know a lot of people have been asking me to do another edition of it. Have been asking me to do certain episodes or certain shows. Well, I'm going to get into some of those shows probably later on. I just got to look up again what kind they want. But this is a special edition. And the special edition is for one reason. I'm going to talk about a cartoon. Well, I guess you could sort of call it a live action cartoon, if you will. It's something that some of my friends here on YouTube, DevinArt, Affinient, and many other places know about very well. And the show is this show, The Secret World of Alex Mack. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, how is this like a cartoon? Well, let's put it this way. A lot of the things that take place in it is fantasy, is sci-fi, but it's very cartoony-like in some ways. Very cartoony-like. I mean, when you take a look at the first season, you kind of get that idea that it's almost cartoony-like. And the same and the same goes for the next 3 seasons after that. But let's talk about the show, shall we? Now, the show basically, of course, and unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, before I talk into it, you're probably only going to see this picture here because I can't put any clips on there due to copyright violations by Viacom and Nickelodeon and Paramount and all that, so I apologize. But Alex Mack, wow. What can we say about this show? I first discovered it back in 1994 when it first came out. My dad actually is the one that pointed it out to me. Now, what is this show about? This show is about, of course, the title character here, Alex Mack, who was at the time, a 7th grader, I believe, in middle school. Now, what happens is on her way home, she gets drenched by this chemical called CG161, I believe. I could be wrong. Maybe you can correct me on that, but I think that's what the name is. Now, she doesn't know exactly what this chemical will do. But apparently, this chemical was being tossed out, thrown out, if you will, or at least hidden, or something like that, for the time, by the villainess. That's right, we have a villainess as our main antagonist in this series, called Danielle Anton. So, and it's ironic because Alex's parents work for this Danielle Anton at the plant in Paradise Valley, or that's what it's called. I think I'm not sure. Well, anyway, Alex gets doused with this chemical, and she tells her sister about it. She tells her best friend Ray about it, a black kid about her same age, and when she first tells them about it, some of the powers start to come to be. In fact, when she kind of explains to her sister and Ray what happened, one of the things that occurs is one of the powers that, is shown off, one of the first powers that's shown off has become one of the most popular powers according to many fans, and that's her morphine power. And no, I'm not talking about morphine Power Ranger style, no. Okay, let me put it this way. It's her morphine / melting power. That's right. Let me put it to you like this. Basically, when this power is first introduced, and her sister and Ray are trying to figure out what's going on, Ray looks around and wonders where Alex is. Annie, who's her older sister, looks down at this puddle on the floor, and she's like, Ray, I think that's Alex down below. I think that's Alex right there. And Alex kind of chases Ray around a little bit, trying to figure out how to reform, which she finally does, but she reforms naked. So, and don't worry, they don't show anything. It's a kid's show. Anyway, throughout the first season, she learns to control these powers even more so. In fact, she even learns that her powers can be extended in some way. I don't know if it's early on or throughout the later part of the first season, but she finds out that when she merges with other water elements with her morphine powers, when she uses her morphine powers in other water elements, she can extend her powers even more so. In fact, there's an episode, I don't know if it's the shock value episode or something like that, where she uses her morphine powers first in a swimming pool, where she basically morphs in the swimming pool, I guess, to get at a kid and just bubbles under the pool, and be as part of the water. And then, I guess, towards the end of the episode, I don't know if it's the same episode or not, she turns into this big fountain. She kind of gets on, I guess, this fountain-like structure or something, like goes up it in her morph liquid form, and then all of a sudden kind of stretches it out to where it connects into some kind of design. I don't know. And I don't know if she remains that way towards the end of the episode or not. But anyway, like I said, the first season, she's learning to develop, not just develop more of, she's not only learning more about her powers, but she's learning basically more of how to control them and how she could also, I guess, have an extension of them. Now, as we get into the later seasons, her powers start to get even more advanced, if you will. They start to develop even more so. And as she grows and her powers evolve, so does the CGI animation. That's right. You see, the way they use the morphine power that she has, as well as her, ability to shoot out lightning or electricity out of her fingers and all that, was through CGI. Now, the first season, it was kind of like very, very early, you could tell it was very early CGI. I mean, it looked watery and everything, but it looked like the kind of watery CGI you'd seen before. But again, as the show developed even more so the next few seasons, the CGI got better. And instead of looking just like water, just like splashed down water, it looked like a very solid silver liquid that she would morph into. Now, these powers would help her out at times. And sometimes they'd get her in trouble. But the one constant thing about her powers was she always had to keep them a secret from her parents and anybody else. Why? Because throughout the entire series, Danielle, the villainess and main antagonist, Danielle Anton, always tried to get her hands on whoever the kid was. Now, throughout the season, she would capture a lot of these other kids. Some of them were Alex's best friends, in trying to determine if one of them was the kid. Now, we do find out that Danielle Anton, from what I understand, because I didn't see the entire series, but I saw some of it, we find out that Danielle Anton had an assistant a long time ago. And that this assistant knew exactly what the CGI 161 chemical could do, because they had tested it on themselves, and they knew the dangers that possibly could have on other people, the dangers it could have on people if Danielle Anton ever was able to ship it out. Now, that's another reason why the main villainess and antagonist, Danielle Anton, wants the CGI 161 kid, or Alex, captured. Because she wants to make sure that the secret of what CG 161 can really do, doesn't get out there, and also she wants to experiment on them to figure out, how they could prevent this. I guess how they could prevent this from happening or something. I don't know. Anyway, throughout the series, she has these lackeys helping her out. One is the second main antagonist named Vincent, who's just as determined as Danielle to capture this kid. The other is sort of like a sidekick, sort of like the lovable sidekick, if you will, of Vincent. Sort of like basically he's a protagonist working for the antagonist. You get what I'm saying? He's kind of like that. He's a protagonist sidekick working for the antagonist villain. And his main thing, and I can't think of his name right now, but what he does is he always tries to find a way to make sure that the CGI 161 kid, or as he finds out later on but doesn't say anything, like I said, he finds out later on but doesn't say anything, Alex, he wants to make sure that she's protected, doesn't want to see anything happen to the kid. Okay? So, anyway, they do that throughout the season. We found out that there was a monkey, I guess, there was an experimental monkey that took the CGI 161 formula. Also was has the same powers and abilities as Alex. But again, like I said, throughout the series, and the series ran for 4 seasons, her powers would develop and evolve even more so, to the point that she would gain super strength. Her lightning charges that she would shoot out would be even more powerful. At times she would burp out bubbles, I guess, due to nervousness. And also when it came to her morphine, which again, like I said, was one of the most morphine/melting, which became one of the most popular powers among the fans. She was also able later on to start morphing with by holding different objects. You know, during the first season, she couldn't do this, but as we got into the second season and the third season, she started to be able to do this. In fact, there's one episode where Annie is testing this ability to see if Alex can morph at the same time while holding stuff or holding onto an object, and it proves to be successful. Because one of the things that Annie does is she always wants to see how much Alex's powers have grown as Alex has grown. Now, later on, her powers grow even more so, to the point that not only can she morph/melt with other objects around her, but she can also now morph and melt with other people. In other words, what she could do is she could hold on to a person, and that person can morph/melt with her into a single puddle. In other words, they become one puddle on the floor. She has done this with her best friend Ray. She has done this with her sister Annie. She has done this with some various other friends. And yes, she even did it with her parents, She's even done it with her parents, her mom, twice. And what I mean by her mom twice is what happened is there's an episode where I guess Alex doesn't want to, I guess the mom wants Alex to do some kind of chore that Alex doesn't want to do. So what does Alex do? She morphs to try to get out of the situation. But what happens instead is her mom walks in right after she morphs, steps right onto Alex in her puddle form, and gets absorbed right into Alex. And then they both morph back to normal, but they have switched bodies. But it was only for that one episode. Again, that was only for that one episode. And then when she morphs with her parents together, that's during the final episode. Now, like I said, the series ran for 4 years, for 4 seasons. And in the final episode, and towards the end of the final season, they finally figure out who the CGI 161 kid is. And how do they figure this out? They figured this out thanks to a new character that was introduced around the second to third and fourth season. And that character's name is Lewis. Now, Lewis was kind of a mischiefy guy, always, basically a mischiefy guy who had a good heart, but always would look for a fast buck. I guess you could say he was like the Daffy Duck, if you will, of the show. Basically, the guy that, like I said, was a good heart, but always the kind that was scheming and always looked for a fast buck to get to fame and fortune. That's the kind of guy he was, but he had a good heart. And what happened is that the plant captured him